أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله عليه أفضل الصلاة ومن والاه أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And we are here, we're continuing with our journey through Surah Al-Mu'minun. So today we're talking about verse number 3 and 4. And I have the verses kind of right in front of me here to refer to them. So verse number 3, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. One last thing that I wanted to share with you with respect to that previous verse, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. These are the ones that indeed in their prayer they have khushu'. You know, the word khushu', we mentioned this already in a previous video. You know, you have so much fear standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that your limbs become numb, you become stiff, you don't move around, you limit the amount of movement as much as possible so that you can concentrate on what is most important. So with that being said, if you notice that when you're on a high, you know, you're really focused, you pray the best fajr of your life, you want to maintain that feeling all day. But the reality is that doesn't happen. You know, after an hour or two, you kind of go back to status quo. You don't feel that iman rush that you've had. And this is the same thing that we experience, like if we go to conferences, you see your favorite speaker, you hear this amazing lecture, and then you walk out of the conference, and everything's kind of back to normal. How do you maintain that iman high throughout the day and even throughout your life? This is where Salat al-Dhuhr comes in. You reignite, you get back into Salah again. You revisit الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. You revisit this ayah. So you're back, you re-energize. Now when you're done Dhuhr, you start to see that iman rush slowly disintegrates. And by the time it completely disappears, what's the next prayer? Asr comes in. Then the same cycle until Maghrib comes in. The same cycle until Isha comes in. When Isha comes in now you're with your family, you're home, you're relaxed. You're thinking about, okay, you know, you can spend time with the family, that's all ibadah. And then you go to bed. So when people ask, why do I have to pray 5 times a day? This ayah, the word khushu' answers the question. The fact that we need to have khushu' in our prayer answers the question that we need 5 prayers a day. We need that so that we can reignite khushu' all throughout the day. And now we're required to pray every day, every single day of our lives. No matter what our condition is, we try to pray the best way possible, whatever the condition is. That immediately tells you that our whole life revolves around khushu'. Just think about it. It's beautiful. So I just wanted to share that with you now, leading into the next ayah. If you lose khushu', okay, or you struggle with khushu', the next ayah is the natural consequence. If you can't control your physical actions in front of Allah, then you know what happens next? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. Then there are also those عَنِ اللَّغْوِ. When they hear laghu, so if you don't have khushu', then you have a laghu problem. But when you have khushu', you are عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. You reject laghu. You're uncomfortable with laghu. So before we continue, we got to understand what laghu is. Laghu, lam, ghain, and waw, literally refers to conversations that are of no use. You know how some people can sit and they can talk about someone or they can talk about something for literally hours, even throughout the night? And then you're just wondering, oh my God, the whole night is gone. And all we've been talking about how to pass the last level in Super Mario. And man, it was really tough, but I'm really glad we had this conversation. That's lahu. If you have a problem like lahu, if you're praying and you're still thinking about the Angry Birds level and how you're going to pass that last level, where are you going to shoot the bird, how the bird is going to hit this particular rock, and how is everything going to fall apart, you're playing Angry Birds while you're in prayer. You have a lahu problem. If you're thinking about, your favorite shows, your favorite forms of entertainment, all of these things, you have a lahu problem. Lahu also is a distraction. Lahu is useless talk. You're just talking smack all day and night. Lahu also is actions. When you're just doing things that are of no benefit and of no use. You're sitting there binging Netflix videos all day. You have a lahu problem. So what is Allah telling us in this ayah? The people who are true believers have khushu'. But when they are around lahu, they are mu'ridun. You know mu'ridun, the form of this word, okay, the structure of this word represents that they don't even, for not a split second, they're never comfortable with mu'ridun. They don't just say, you know what, it's just, it's one wedding. I know there's going to be a reception. I know there's going to be alcohol there. But I mean, yeah, it's just one wedding. Let's just go and get it over with. When they're there, they're not the first person on the dance floor. They're uncomfortable and they're just like, oh man, you know what? We don't need to be here. Let's go. That's mu'ridun. You don't want to be around lahu. You don't even want to listen to lahu. You don't even want to see lahu. It makes you uncomfortable and it clutters your mind. So the natural consequence, if you lose khushu', then you have a lahu problem. I hope you see how beautiful the connection is. If you lose khushu' in your salah, then the natural next step, the next consequence that follows is you end up developing a lahu problem. Your Quran time will just be in Ramadan. Your masjid time will just be Jum'ah. Your Allah time will only be when you pray. And unfortunately, that prayer, 4 of them happen all at the same time. Because why? You've missed all the salah times throughout the day. You get my point? So, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مَعْرِضُونَ. We want to be the people, and this is, just a piece of advice. If you have like music and songs downloaded on your phone, then the first thing that you need to do, first of all, you have a lahu problem. The second thing is you need to delete that stuff. Just delete it. Literally go in to your phone and just start deleting all of those playlists. Get it out. There are certain things about our deen that you don't procrastinate about. You don't just be like, oh my God, maybe I need some counseling. Maybe I should talk to somebody. I'm really addicted to this stuff and I don't know what to do. Talking to somebody might help, but you are the best counselor to yourself. Like, you've got to realize that at some point, you just have to act. People will ask me, Brother Musta, can you make dua that I pray? And I'm like, no. Just go and pray. It's salat time. Go perform wudu and stand up and just do the action. Just do it. Allah, Brother Musa, can you make dua that Allah gives me strength, so I watch TV too much. I'm always on my phone. Can you make dua Allah gives me strength so I can limit my time? No. Turn off your phone. Put it away. Realize you have that problem and just attack the problem. Get to it. The counseling might be a source of push and encouragement for you, and that's okay. But don't depend on that stuff. Allah is putting us responsible for our own choices. It says, look, if you're in salah and you've got khushu', then you never will have a lahu problem. But you lose concentration in prayer, then you have a lahu problem. It'll immediately follow. So when people ask, I can't concentrate, I can't focus in salah. Salah is just cardiovascular exercise. I just do it for the sake of doing it. I don't know how to get out of this. The first step to healing that is see what kind of lahu you have in your life. And by the way, we all have it. Every one of us has a little bit of lahu in us. And you've got to take time to sort of dissect and look at the effects of lahu in your life. Look at the effects. You know, I talk to like people all day, all the time. You know, it's my job and it's kind of what I do. Sometimes when I'm talking to someone and they want to tell me a situation about someone else, but they know that there's a fine line between them talking about the person and backbiting about the person, right? And you know, people, when they stand with people like us, you know, the shuyukh and imams and so on, they're very cautious. But if I end up saying, tell me about so-and-so, right? Tell me about this person, and I name the person's name. I said, tell me about so-and-so. What was your interaction with them? Sometimes you'll see their eyes light up. There's a guy, oh my God, I can actually backbite. Meanwhile, we're not backbiting. You know, we're trying to figure out a situation. Like, tell me about so. Well, you know what? I saw him and he was wearing this and he sat down like this and he was looking at me. I know he hates me. Well, and I'm just like, I don't need to know any of that. That's backbiting. Just tell me what the problem is. But the point is that there are people in this world that are attracted to lahu. They love that stuff. They find that that's juicy time in their day or in their life. And if that's the case, then salah will be absolutely useless. It will feel like just exercise. It will feel annoying. 5 times a day, that's too much. It will feel annoying. And so slowly but surely, you start losing that flavor of prayer. And then it just, more lahu, one layer of lahu after another piles up. And before you know it, you might stop praying. Wal'iyadh billah, may Allah protect us from that. You might stop praying. Or you might ridicule and scrutinize and put down those who are praying. Well, look at these guys. What a waste of time. You know, they're going to go pray and they're going to do all of this work and look how messed up their lives are. You're going to start looking at it from that lens. That's how you know lahu is being developed. So the point of this ayah is to highlight that a true believer that is successful, and we've talked about what success is, true believers that really invest in their akhirah, really invest in improving their scale of good deeds, are people that when they listen or they see or they are in the presence of lahu, they become extremely uncomfortable, and then they follow that discomfort with mu'ridun. They get up and they repel this stuff, like, get this away from me. I don't want to listen to that. You know what? I know that there's just a couple bad scenes in that movie, but I don't even want to watch the movie at all. That's how you know you're a believer. That's part of the checklist. You don't care about, okay, we can just fast forward it. Or it's just PG-13. You know, the PG-13 movies and shows of today are not the same PG-13 that they were 10 and 15 years ago. You know, what was rated R back then is now PG-13 today. So you're mindful of this stuff. And you're watching these movies and you're watching these shows and you're looking at the ratings and you realize, no, I don't want to see that. I don't care about the fast forward button. I don't care. Mu'ridun. You reject this stuff. Last ayah. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Then here's another quality of a true successful believer. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ, and they are those, لِلزَّكَاةِ, when they purify, فَاعِلُونَ, they do it. Now zakat here is not the zakat that you pay. Allah didn't say وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ عَامِلُونَ. عَمَلٌ, action. عَمَلٌ is a verb that's used when you're talking about zakat, not fi'lun. Fi'lun is just a random action. So you're not doing zakat. Amalun is that you're actually performing the action of zakat, like you're actually going through with the process of paying the zakat, you know all the fiqh, etc., etc. That's not what this ayah is talking about. The zakat in this ayah here, because Allah said fa'ilun at the end, is the action of purification from within. So now, you're taking the step of mu'ridun, and now you start spiritually vacuuming your heart all the time. You know, we need, in this day and age, to vacuum our hearts all the time, every day. Your heart spiritually goes in the state of emergency when you don't purify it each and every day. Why? Because we're surrounded by so much wrong. We see and listen to so much wrong. We're just literally surrounded from every corner, in every aspect. It's there. So what does the believer do? They're always thinking of and reflecting, how am I going to keep improving? So let me give you an example. When you're reviewing Quran, okay, you want to read some Quran, and you're reading a surah that you memorize. So for example, Surah Al-Mu'minun, you've memorized. So here you are, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ وَالَّذِينَ, and you're stuck. So you go back, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, and you go again. When you get to the same ayah, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ, and you're stuck again. You're stuck again. And you find that this trend is happening. This is a surah you can read in your sleep, and you're stuck again. And then you realize what happened. You start thinking, why am I forgetting this surah? Oh yeah, I just finished watching that movie, and man, there was some crazy stuff in there I shouldn't have seen. Damn. As Allah says in the Quran, as our Prophet ﷺ says, and as Islam as a whole teaches us, you can never take darkness and light and fuse them together. You can't be involved in wrong or sin and at the same time expect that barakah and blessing will all come together. It's just not going to work. You know, our Prophet ﷺ told us of a hadith of a student of knowledge that sins. And he tells us that the student of knowledge that sins is like a candle that's lit. You know, on the one side, when the candle is lit, it's bringing light and guidance. It gives direction to people where they go and what they should do. It provides light. But at the same time, it's burning itself out. So here you are. You know, on the one hand, you're reviewing your Quran, etc., etc. But on the other hand, you're still in laghu. You're not purifying yourself. So as a result, you're stuck in the exact same spot. So you're reviewing the surah every day for the past 2 months and you still can't read it without making a mistake. You're still getting stuck at the same places. Why? Because you haven't purified yourself from laghu. And the best form of purifying yourself from laghu is you concentrate in prayer. Do you see how beautifully connected all of these verses? You know, if I can say, this is one of those surahs, and obviously I'm not encouraging you to do this, don't do this, but it's interesting to reflect about and think. This surah is almost like a surah you can read backwards and it'll still make sense. Like you could read it backwards. You can just say, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And it's still making sense to you. Because when you start the proper way and you begin from the beginning of the surah onwards, everything connects perfectly, and you can go backwards and it's like, wow, it's still talking to me. It's still making sense. It is one beautiful pattern of this surah and perhaps all the surahs in some ways. So, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Now, فَاعِلُونَ, let's talk about this word فِعْلٌ. Remember earlier on I said to you that sometimes, there are things in our deen, you just do it. You don't procrastinate. Purifying yourself is that thing. Just do it. Just realize that deep within, I have an honesty problem. Deep within, it was my fault. And I still lied. Deep within, you know what was right, but you did otherwise. Deep within, you know, I've got a racist problem. I discriminate. I treated that person differently because of the color of their skin or their religion or their background. I know that's wrong. When you do that, when you are your best critic, then you start the process of tazkiyah. You start purifying. You start realizing, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that anymore. I should change. Yeah, I shouldn't treat people based on their color of their skin. Like, it wasn't my fault they came out that way. It wasn't my fault. I didn't have nothing to do with it. So I've got to change my mindset. And you slowly start breaking down the barriers of laghu. You start destroying them. And then you start vacuuming your heart, your nafs, your soul. You start vacuuming your iman, cleaning up your life. And then you become of what the Quran calls al-albab. Albab are people that it's the highest level or peak of a believer. Albab is when you are spiritually pure, that when you hear advice and guidance and you even see advice and guidance, like you see the good around you, it still talks to you. Like nobody has to actually come and tell you this was wrong. You just see that was wrong and you're like, oh man, subhanallah, I can't believe I just did that. You start giving yourself nasiha. You start giving khutbahs to yourself. You start lecturing yourself. You look in the mirror and you're like, God, why did you say that? Why did you do that? You lose sleep over critiquing yourself. When you do that, you are doing fa'ilun. You are doing lizzakati fa'ilun. You're literally cleaning yourself up all day, every day. Allah says that when you do that and you develop that kind of habit, you are definitely from قَدَ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. So beautiful. This is just the 4th ayah, guys. Tomorrow, inshaAllah ta'ala, we continue. We'll take about 5 or 6 more verses. Usually with our tafseers, as you've probably realized, that the first, 5 to 10 verses we go slow because it's part of the introduction of the surah, but the pace will start to pick up and even the amount of verses will also start to increase. So just bear that in mind. I hope and I pray that insha'Allah ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counts us from amongst قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. That's where we want to be, that's what we're striving for, and that's what we hope to be always and forever until we meet Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So having said that, I ask Allah Azza wa Jal, keep us safe, keep us healthy, allow everything that we see and we learn from this beautiful surah uplift us, purify us, make us of the best people in this world, wa fil akhirah, and in the hereafter. Allahumma ameen. So take care, guys, inshaAllah. And by the way, I almost forgot. This chapter here, or excuse me, this episode is called Our Personalities Are Like Onions. You're probably wondering, why in the world did I name it that? That's who we are. So when we're talking about the process of tazkiyah, we are like onions. I'm not saying that we smell or we taste bad. I'm just saying that, we're like onions. You peel off one layer, what's under that layer? Another layer, and another layer, and another layer. And that process continues. So when you're doing lizzakati fa'ilun, you peel off one layer and you realize, my God, I still have this problem. And it goes even deeper. My anger is really embedded in me. So you work at it and you're like, man, subhanallah, this has been going on for years. And you keep feeling like, oh my God, I've been doing this since I was a kid. You know where I learned this title really and truly from? When I spoke to a student years ago that was addicted to pornography. And he told me that this student, when I met him, I think he was about 20 or 22 years old, something like that. And he told me he had been addicted to pornography since he was like 8 years old. He was like 8 years old, so just over 10 years. Okay, 10, 12 years or so, he's been addicted to it. So he's like, I work at it. But then as I keep working at it, I realize how I don't have to be in front of a computer or on my phone to see pornography. He just looks at people and he visualizes and his imagination starts running wild. So he developed this personality from within that everybody was like a sex object to him. Everywhere he went. If he saw a poster, he'd think about a video that he saw. If he's talking to like a woman or something, he'll think of a video he saw. He starts to imagine, all these like awful thoughts will come to his head. And so as you peel these layers off, then you realize it's embedded within deeper and deeper and deeper. But the point here is this. The process of peeling those layers off is a sign that you have tazkiyah in you. That's the point. You're peeling it up. You didn't just let the onion sit there and rot. You didn't just let your heart become stale and spiritually decayed from this stuff. No, you attack that heart and you start cleaning it up. So you decided to peel this onion and you're just getting at it. You don't care. You're like, you know what? I'm going to confront myself and I'm going to do this. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Welcome to the path of what it takes to be a successful believer. You're there. Incredible. Incredible, subhanAllah. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless you all. So take care of yourselves, inshallah, and we will continue this tomorrow. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.